Hi, this is Mr. Evans. This video looks at e-commerce. So it's a type of digital technology, or it's related to digital technology at least, and it's one of the things that you need to know about in the specification. It's a term that AQA could use when asking you questions, and so to understand what e-commerce is, it's a really huge definition, to be honest. E-commerce can refer to the buying and selling of goods and services and or the transmission of funds or data using electronic networks such as the internet. So to break that down, there's the buying and selling of goods and services, fine, but there's also the transmission of funds or data, so electronic payment systems that we use when we're paying with credit cards or debit cards in stores, and the transmission of data, which is just absolutely huge. Supermarkets communicating with their suppliers that they need delivery of baked beans, or emails that go out to customers, or pop-up ads that appear on websites. Just huge amounts of data that are sent out. So it's a really vast definition. Electronic networks such as the internet, so that that includes, yes, the laptops or computers that we use at home, but also mobile technology. It taps into kind of promotion on social media. So it's an absolutely huge area, and this definition is very wide-ranging and encompasses an awful lot of things. I've just included this graphic here from Statista that shows that how fast e-commerce and online growth is in the UK. I mean, this is really the area of development in retail. If you listen to the news, you'll hear about what a tough time retailers are having, particularly those that have been slow to adopt online trading. Organisations like Next, which already had a catalogue, so they're kind of used to dealing with the kind of networks required to deal with e-commerce, tend to be faring better than organisations like H&M or Marks and Spencer's, who have been a little bit slow to adapt online. So this is a really key area for businesses to be aware of, and for your own futures. Getting some computer skills, being able to comfortably operate software and even do computer programming is going to be very, very important for your future skills development. So we could split the advantages of e-commerce into two categories. We've got the revenues that can be generated through e-commerce, which would include things like the increased size of target markets, so new geographical markets. So if you think about a traditional business that doesn't have a website or doesn't use any e-commerce, the size, let's just take a traditional bookshop. All right, the size of its geographical market is probably the town that they're in and maybe the outlying area. Once you've got a website, of course, your product can become national or even global. You can attract hits from all over the world, and you increase the size of your target market dramatically by having your own website, which of course can increase your sales and get more money in. If you can lower your selling price, it should increase demand for price elastic goods, and we'll have a look at in a second why e-commerce may allow organisations to lower their selling price. We can collect huge amounts of data about customers that allows for better targeted marketing. So businesses that have websites will collect a lot of data on customers, particularly if those customers have to put in their personal details and have bought products from them, so they can target their marketing at those consumers. But also organisations can buy data off Google and Facebook and companies like that, and use, you could market. An organisation can say to Facebook, well, can you put this pop-up advert to all 21 to 29-year-olds who have said they're interested in this particular band or TV programme or whatever. It also means we've got a 24/7 shop front. Basically, that's saying that a traditional business might have been open from 9 till 5. If we've got a website, customers can access our business all the time. So all of these things should combine together to increase our revenue. In terms of costs, well, there are lower barriers to entry if we can start a website, so lower startup costs. Back in the past, if I wanted to start a business, I might have needed a shop, which would have at least incurred monthly rent payments. I would have needed to kit out my shop. I would have needed to have bought fixtures and fittings and so on to make sure my shop was operational. These days I could trade from home and just use a website, so there's much lower startup costs, which means barriers to entry are falling and it's much easier for people to start up their own businesses. I'm going to get more efficient advertising spending, which should lower my advertising costs for reasons we've already discussed. I might be able to access a greater number of suppliers, so I'm not just reliant on those suppliers in my area, and I may, as a result, achieve better prices. I can go to a more competitive supplier if I am using the internet to search out those more competitive suppliers. So savings can be made on the asset base. So a company like Amazon is able to sell products for much cheaper than, say, Waterstones, a high street bookshop, because those high street bookshops need to rent shops, they need to pay staff to run those shops. Far more efficient to have one huge warehouse like Amazon have got. They've got at least one warehouse very close to the M1 motorway in about the middle of the country. It's an out of town area, the rent is much lower, it's absolutely huge, so fewer staff can run that warehouse than it would require if you had a number of shops. So we save lots of money as a result of engaging in e-commerce, and those savings can then be passed on to our suppliers, tapping into this point we made about lower selling prices earlier on. Economies of scale reduce average costs, so if we can sell more stuff through the increased size of our target market, we're going to be able to increase our output, benefit from economies of scale, maybe experience curve benefits as well, and we lower average costs. And we should lower the amount of waste. It might be much easier to adapt a just-in-time production system, for example, if we're using e-commerce. Customers can go on your website, they can order their product through the website, design it to their own specifications. Those materials would be, that would generate an email sent to supplier for those materials to come along. And we're not, if you think back to AS, we called that a pull system of production, where we're not like pushing products on consumers. Consumers are ordering it and it's being pulled through. That means consumers have designed their own product, and there should be less waste as a result. So lots of advantages of e-commerce. If you want to think about the disadvantages of e-commerce or the costs of e-commerce, think of some of the costs of introducing technology. The need to constantly upgrade, the need to train staff, the impact on staff morale perhaps if it means a lower cost size of the workforce. So all of those could be costs of introducing new e-commerce. So is e-commerce suitable for all businesses? Okay, this is an absolutely huge area of growth. Should every business be engaging in e-commerce and have, be selling online? Well, particularly e-commerce is suitable for products that are easily transportable or downloadable, such as books, music, films, software. Okay, so these have been digitalized, a lot of these products. Back in the day, books were hardback, now they can be digital. Netflix and organisations like that, all digitalised products. Lower value goods or products that are simple to work and use can be sold by e-commerce. Alright, we don't need instructions on how to use them, like clothes. People are quite happy to order these online. They understand them, they don't need advice, for example, from a specialist member of staff, as you would do if you were buying, say, a car. Services that do not require the receiver to be physically in the same room, financial services, banking, insurance, accountancy. It's fairly easy to buy car insurance online. Most people understand what they get with car insurance, and so it's easier to do those things. Plus, of course, it's much easier to compare different quotes through the aggregators, those organisations, the price comparison websites. The technical term is aggregators. They allow you to compare prices. However, it's going to be less suitable for expensive goods that customers want to inspect beforehand, cars, jewellery maybe, heavy non-transportable products. I'm not exactly going to order petrol online, at least in the immediate future. Services that need to be provided in person, haircuts and restaurants, etc. You can't do those over a website. And traditional products and processes that require large amounts of capital investment. The petrol, like a farm, or an oil distillery. Okay, that's not to say that these organisations wouldn't have a website. For example, a hairdresser may have a website where you can order, you can arrange an appointment online, or you could even ask the hairdresser to come and do a home appointment. I'm not saying that they won't have e-commerce, but it's going to be less. There's only a certain amount of these products that can be digitalised and put online. These would be less suitable perhaps for a full e-commerce strategy.